This video has been classified as M. It is recommended for people aged 15 years and over.
This program contains content that may distress some viewers.
Welcome back. Now, this week I saw something very concerning on the front page of the West Australian newspaper.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And that was Sky's Rita Panahi getting upset about a confronting front page on domestic violence in Perth's main newspaper. What it is, we will reveal shortly. But Rita was so concerned that she got Conservative commentator Kevin Donnelly onto the programme to discuss it.
When I saw that front page, I was shocked. I think it's appalling. It didn't surprise me.
And why would he be surprised? Because, as Seven's West Australian has been showing us, with front page after front page, women in Australia are bashed, abused and killed every day of the week. Since the end of August, the West Australian has been running a passionate campaign to do more about family violence, pushing for DV experts to be on the beat 24/7, backing a summit to declare war on abusers, and running editorials like this.
Every 4 minutes, a woman is in danger. Every 4 minutes.
Every 4 minutes.
And this.
We have to face the brutal reality of domestic violence. Lynn, Tiffany, Emmerich, Georgia. 4 names we must never forget.
And on Tuesday, the paper had this shocking image on its front page, with the woman's horrific story of brutal assaults by her partner also running for 5 minutes at the top of the bulletin on 7 News Perth, with videos the man had filmed.
He knocks Peter unconscious by banging her head against the floor and punching her. He threatens to kill her and her kids.
You die now. You're going to die now.
It is confronting stuff that could easily make people switch off or look away, which the paper acknowledged, telling readers in a story headlined, "I had to dig my own grave."
These horrifying images are almost too gut-wrenching to look at, but they catalogue a terrifying story of domestic violence that is all too familiar to many women.
So, how could Sky's Rita Panahi and Kevin Donnelly not be shocked and concerned? But which front page in particular had got them upset? Was it this one? Or this one? Or was it this one?
Call for DV lessons at all schools to address menace of toxic masculinity.
Yes, can you believe it? Of all the West's shocking front pages, that was the one that got Rita and Kevin all razzed up.
There was an image of a young boy with the headline, "How we stop this kid becoming a monster." Really? What a disgraceful front page. These sort of attacks against boys and young men under the guise of tackling domestic violence are not only idiotic and damaging, but they are counterproductive.
Attacks on boys and young men? Idiotic, damaging, counterproductive? That's not what the domestic violence experts would say, and it's not what the West's editor Anthony DeSegli believes. He told Media Watch,
"We write and write and write about these horrific murders, and nothing ever seems to change. Surely by the time we're locking up thugs, it's too late in the cycle."
So, DeSegli and his team asked themselves what could force change.
One thing we all agreed on is that surely if we can teach boys to grow up to be better men, then maybe that can break the cycle. So that is what the front page we did on Monday was about.
One domestic violence advocacy group, Our Watch, wrote to the West to applaud the paper's efforts. And it told us,
"The media has an important role to play in stopping this violence before it starts, and can start important conversations about the actions we can all take to end violence against women. Respectful relationships education is one of these important actions."
So, good on the West and 7 News for campaigning on such an important issue. And shame on Rita Panahi and Sky for turning attempts to combat domestic violence into a culture war. But now, some vintage tabloid TV and a tale that takes us back 24 years to Mike Munro, A Current Affair, and one massive scoop.
Well, today, Robert Bogucki was found, and not by the special team of searchers flown out from America, but by our camera crew covering that search.
Cameraman Wayne Waller, soundman Russell Woolman and chopper pilot Andrew Beaumont were heading to the rescue group's base camp when they saw a man trudging through a gorge.
That man is American Robert Bogucki, missing for 43 days in the Great Sandy Desert back in 1999. The search for him making national and international headlines, with the spoils going to a current affair which incredibly found him by chance.
So what have you been eating?
I have been. 20 kilograms later, out of food and drinking muddy water, the dazed Robert Bogucki was still worried about keeping a promise.
My girlfriend had bought me this shirt a while ago and I haven't worn it yet, so...
But ACA's exclusive quickly blew up with accusations that the programme failed to prioritise medical attention for Bogucki over its own interests, with MediaWatch getting its hands on the raw camera tape and host Richard Ackland revealing what went on behind the scenes.
Less than 2 minutes from the camera rolling, Bogucki showed he was keen to go.
Enough of this walking around.
You've had enough?
Yeah. So where are we going to?
As MediaWatch pointed out at the time, the ACA crew spent at least 17 minutes filming the emaciated and exhausted Bogucki to dress up their story, which included footage of him having a drink, showing the crew a waterhole on request.
Anyway, there's the water. You guys want a drink?
Revealing what was in his backpack, again on request, and culminating in this excruciating shot of him straining to walk back up a hill without anyone from the ACA crew helping. So, why are we revisiting this classic saga? Well, the ACA reporter on that story, Gary Adshead, who's now the morning's presenter at Perth 6PR, returned to the scoop last week in this feature for Nine's online mastheads. And while recounting the fallout and the stuff-ups, Gary Adshead makes a concession in the accompanying podcast that pricked our ears. Maybe they shouldn't have made Bogucki do all those action shots.
I think probably, in hindsight, maybe too long on the ground with him. That 17 minutes perhaps could have been curtailed and we got what we could have got in sort of 5 to 10 minutes and then got on the way to the hospital. I think that would have been a lot better.
That stands in strong contrast to what his ACA boss said at the time.
Did you do the wrong thing on this occasion?
Absolutely not. We conducted a short interview, and I've got to say it's pretty sure I don't know exactly how many minutes it ran, but we're talking minutes here, and then we put him on the chopper.
And yes, the ACA crew did eventually put him on their chopper, which famously touched down mid-journey after Bogucki was given a banana to eat by the ACA crew. Again, it was MediaWatch and the leaked camera tapes that showed the gory details.
The crew dropped him back down in the Great Sandy Desert and sensitively recorded him retching. This footage, you remember, was shown as though it was the very moment Channel 9 discovered him.
Yes, that shot was of a spew, not a rescue. Adshead addressed that particular footage too in his online feature.
Waller, knowing it was another opportunity to film aerials of the survivor, asked Beaumont to fly over him while he recovered on the ground. That decision was a mistake. When MediaWatch aired the uncut vision of Bogucki appearing to vomit alone in the desert, the crew's handling of their exclusive was brought into disrepute.
Not that Gary Adshead thinks that's terribly fair. He calls the MediaWatch segment a hit job and says that criticism of a current affairs story was an overblown media storm driven by jealousy, and that the programme never got the credit it deserved.
Not even a pat on the back for locating the man for whom time was running out and taking him to hospital.
And what about the mystery camera tape that allowed MediaWatch to expose ACA's treatment of Bogucki? Where did it come from? We're told...
The Bogucki raw footage arrived at the MediaWatch office anonymously.
No doubt in a brown paper bag. And while we still don't know who sent it to us, thank you very much. But now to the Press Council and a ruling that has taken 2 years to deliver.
An editorial in the Australian newspaper which targeted the ABC journalist Louise Milligan was inaccurate, unfair, lacked balance, caused unnecessary distress and was not in the public interest.
That is quite a scorecard from the Press Council, given that we're talking about just one editorial, and given that the Australian claimed to be championing good journalism under the self-righteous headline,
"Greatest enemy of truth is those who conspire to lie."
But the Press Council's ruling is also a big smack in the face for the paper because the editorial was attacking professional and ethical standards at the ABC and targeting 2 prize-winning journalists that News Corp once called its own.
Many senior people at The Australian know well the work, the habits and the hubris of Sally Neighbour and Louise Milligan.
Sally Neighbour being executive producer of Four Corners at the time, and Louise Milligan one of her star reporters. The editorial then wrapped up its brickbat with a helpful lecture on how to do better in future.
The subjects of good journalism, of important journalism, lie and dissemble. Good journalists do not. They rely on the truth. They yearn for it, but they understand the limits. The most dangerous enemy of the journalist is bad, lazy, deceitful journalism.
It was a grubby attack that caused a fuss at the time, and it prompted Louise Milligan to complain to the Press Council, which last week found against the paper.
The Murdoch broadsheet breached 3 of the general principles of the regulator when it accused Milligan, a former employee of the newspaper, of bad, lazy, deceitful journalism.
And how did it breach those principles? By failing to ensure factual material is accurate and not misleading, whoops, and failing to be fair and balanced, whoops again. Not that The Australian would agree with the verdict, because it argued that its editorial was not aimed at Milligan or Neighbour, but at the ABC in general. And did that wash? No. With the Press Council ruling...
It is an unavoidable conclusion that she's associated with bad, lazy, deceitful journalism, and that she lies and dissembles, on the basis that she is specifically named in the article.
And that led to breach number 3, with the Press Council saying the editorial was likely to cause offence and distress without sufficient justification. And the penalty for the Australian's betrayal of the standards it urges others to aspire to? None, except to attach the Press Council ruling to the offending editorial, which, despite the shellacking, remains online, reminding us all that...
fairness and balance is your currency.
Shame the Australian did not live up to its own advice. And finally, to the departure lounge.
After 22 years with Qantas, Alan Joyce is into the ejector seat early. The best thing I can do under these circumstances is to bring forward my retirement.
Yes, the media and punters got their scalp last week after a barrage of criticism, with Alan Joyce announcing he'd be packing his bags 2 months early.
Qantas has hit another bout of turbulence.
The turbulence keeps coming for Qantas.
More turbulence for Qantas.
Qantas hits more turbulence.
More turbulence. More turbulence.
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 And the headlines were hardly begging the departing CEO to stay.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice.
Joyce hits eject button.
Cash landing.
That being a reference to the $24 million that Joyce will collect as he opens his golden parachute.
He's loved by shareholders, loathed by others. They're joking online. It's the first Qantas departure to leave early.
So, it's out with the old, in with the new CEO, Vanessa Hudson, who was reassuring staff in a PR blitz arranged by Qantas midweek and beaming out to the networks to say...
Right now, it feels like we're facing another challenging time.
And that is putting it mildly, because according to Roy Morgan Research, Qantas has gone from the 2nd most trusted brand in 2017 to the 13th most distrusted brand in 2023.
And in numbers, that's 181 places down.
And Roy Morgan's CEO, Michelle Levine, says the public holds one person responsible.
In this instance, so much of the venom and anger is towards Alan Joyce. He is actually seen to be, by the public, almost like the devil incarnate.
So, will getting rid of the devil incarnate lead to paradise regained? Not if AFR columnist Joe Aston has anything to do with it. Having successfully shot down Alan Joyce with a barrage of critical columns, he is now targeting Qantas chairman Richard Goyder for his role in the crisis. Tweeting this old wanted poster from 2009 that once ran in Goyder's local Perth newspaper, and a new column claiming
Qantas is only in this dire mess today precisely because Goyder has utterly failed to step up and do what needed to be done.
And Joe is not the only one to have switched the attack, with colleagues at the Herald and the Financial Review taking aim at the Qantas board and its chair for trashing the brand by allowing the company to fly into the flak and then rewarding the pilot with obscene amounts of money.
Pressure is growing on the Qantas chairman, Richard Goyder, about the board's decision to award former chief executive Alan Joyce millions of dollars in bonuses.
And the verdict from some share market experts is no kinder, with a scorching analysis from Intelligent Investors' John Addis proclaiming,
"The board are culpable. The fact that none of them has yet resigned suggests they are as hubristic and out of touch as the CEO they failed to manage."
We'll see whether Goyder and the board can get through the latest patch of media turbulence that forced Joyce to crash land. But in the meantime, is there another view of how it all went wrong for the airline? Yes, take a bow, Andrew Bolt, who assured readers of his News Corp column,
"It wasn't because of cancelled flights and dudded shareholders that Alan Joyce had to quit Qantas. It was because he killed Australians' love for his airline with his divisive identity politics."
Seriously? Yes, Bolt says that backing gay marriage and the yes vote is why the public really lost trust in Qantas and wanted Joyce gone. We asked Roy Morgan Research's Michelle Levine if there was any truth in that. She told us,
Alan Joyce or Qantas' public support for The Voice is not the reason he or the airline are distrusted.
So, sorry Andrew, that one is not going to fly. And that's all from us for tonight. Don't forget Media Bites on Facebook, YouTube and Instagram. But for now, until next week, goodbye.